In a shocking disclosure at the State Capture Commission today, former President Jacob Zuma called former Minister Ngoako Ramatlhodi a spy. In his first day of much anticipated testimony, the former president spoke of plots to assassinate him, to remove him from political office and to undermine his presidency. Testifying in Parktown, Johannesburg, the former president labelled the term state capture an exaggeration, saying it was used to enhance a narrative against him. Then came the shocker. He told the commission chair, Judge Raymond Zondo, that former Mineral Resources Minister Ngoako Ramatlhodi was a spy. Ramatlhodi had testified before the commission that Zuma had auctioned South Africa to the Gupta family. The former president also disputed the testimony of the former CEO of the GCIS, Themba Masego, saying he didn't remember organizing a meeting for him and a Gupta brother. Zuma further denied that the Gupta family had powers to tell ministers what to do. Zuma will continue his testimony on Tuesday. He is expected to conclude his evidence on Friday. So, for more on what transpired on day one of former President Jacob Zuma's appearance at the State Capture Commission is SABC Senior Political reporter Mzwandile Mbeje. By far a lot more sensational than I think a lot of people expected. Mzwai, let's first start perhaps with the atmosphere before and after. What was your sense of it?
Well, as you would know, it's a piece of that in these platforms where former President Zuma appears, there would always be people who would come to support him. So it was not different this time round. There were people outside and the people on the side who had really come to offer their support. And among some of those people, parliamentarians, former ministers, people really who are known as his backers. Yeah, it quite showed that those people are still with him.
So much was made about, and he himself did, about this plot against him, which he says goes back 30 years. Now, there's some who've interpreted that to mean that that threat has been within his own party. What exactly did he say, and so on?
You know, Tsepi, so, you know, if you look at everything that he said, before he could really be asked questions by the commission, he asked to lay the context. So what he is essentially saying is that some of the events that are happening, perhaps that are dealing with him now, so are as a result really of a plot that was hatched many years ago. I mean, he basically is saying, I mean, from my own understanding of the situation is that, so you even find people who find themselves implementing this plan, even not knowing that actually what you are doing is part of the long plan that was hatched. I mean, he started well in the 1990s. I mean, talking about the issue of him and former President Thabo Mbeki being replaced in their absence as chief intelligence chief and of course chief negotiator respectively. So all those things, he said, so if you then connect the dots, I think that's the word he also used, is that, I mean, you look at the kind of the charges that have been preferred against him, the charges being withdrawn, you look at things really that have been happening to him, the kind of pressure, him being fired. So all those things, he says, so are a part of a very bigger plan. Remember, he says so many people didn't want him to ascend. Even if he is now gone, the fact that he's got so much information, this person has been the head of intelligence. Besides that, he has occupied the highest office in the land. I mean, as president,
so
you know,
he actually does point to his perceived knowledge of spies that he says are within or were outside of the ANC. But the MKMVA, Kirby Mapadzwe, also coming out saying that they're glad he's finally come forth with this knowledge or information that there are people both nationally and internationally who are behind us. Has the MKMVA ever named these people?
Well, not really, but you know what has been happening? When we were getting into this positive mood of a democratic system where everyone will be prosperous and free, I think the governing party, the ANC, and perhaps the elders, I think took a very conscious decision to say there are so many things that happened outside. But if we're then to go back and go back to those things, not only outside, actually even inside, because remember, this was a long struggle and there were so many characters involved in it, and some people could easily be influenced. But if then you wanted to go back to say who did what, so you were going to take the country back. So that is why they are saying, they are feeling vindicated because they've always known that there are those individuals, but in their view, they thought they had changed. The fact that they feel former president is still being followed, as they say, even in his retirement, is evidence enough that perhaps they are still active. Perhaps that is why they must be outed as well.
Thank you very much. It's a story that we're on for the rest of the show, so do keep tuned. SABC Senior Political reporter Mzwandile Mbeje. Stephen has more on that.